what's up, everybody, and welcome to The Horror Within Me, a podcast dedicated to the world of horror. I am your host, Eric, and each week I'm going to rate and review a new movie or TV show that falls within the horror genre. Now, this is a show for horror fans, hosted by a horror fan, who's just here to share my opinions and experiences with my fellow horror friends in hopes that you may gain something new to watch or not watch, and really just talk about all things related to this beautifully dark and spooky world that we call horror. So if this sounds like a show for you, stick around, we're going to have a lot of fun. So let's get started. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to a brand new Spooky Sunday episode of The Horror Within Me. I'm your host, Eric, and this week's episode, we are going to be reviewing the 1993 film Leprechaun. I know that I'm late doing the Leprechaun movie, not the weekend of St. Patrick's Day, but we already discussed why, so we're not going to go into a lot of time about that. I didn't want to miss doing this movie because it is literally one of my favorite movies from my childhood growing up. I watched this movie so many times, so I was so interested to have an episode done on it, not only to give my review and my, things on this movie, but also very curious to see the different reviews on this movie. I know there are other Leprechaun fans out there. I know that there are a lot of non-Leprechaun fans out there. So I was very excited to really dive into this movie for the review for this show. So without further ado, we're going to dive in to episode 46, which is Leprechaun. All right. Going right into it, we're going to start off with the synopsis. The synopsis goes, an evil, sadistic leprechaun goes on a killing rampage in search of his beloved pot of gold. The movie stars Warwick Davis as the leprechaun, Jennifer Aniston as Tori, Ken Oldant as Nathan, Mark Holton as Ozzy, Robert Gorman as Alex, Shay Duffin as O'Grady, and John Sandiford as JD. We also have Pamela Mant as Mrs. O'Grady. This movie was released, weirdly, not in March, but it was released in January 8th, 1993. It's about a little under a month before my husband was born, guys. This movie was out the same year, but he was February 6th, 1993. But anyway, directed by Mark Jones, produced by Jeffrey B. Malian, written by Mark Jones as well, has an R rating, has a runtime of 1 hour and 32 minutes, and the genre on IMDb is comedy, fantasy, horror, and the tagline is "Your luck just ran out." So let's talk a little bit about the information we just talked, that I just went over. There's a name in there that everyone knows, and I don't know if everyone knows that she's in this. Jennifer fucking Aniston stars in Leprechaun. Now, if you're a horror fan and you are part of this community, then you probably already knew that. But if you're a casual horror viewer and you like this show and you're listening and have never heard of Leprechaun, Jennifer fucking Aniston stars in Leprechaun. And I think this was before Friends, maybe a year. I think Friends was in 1994. So we get her very young, obviously, starting out her career. So that's interesting also. What else? Like I said, released in January and not March. I was wondering, I don't know what else was released in March of 1993 that this movie couldn't just get that done. I would have much preferred it to have been released around St. Patrick's Day. I thought that would have made more sense, but who am I? I love the genre comedy, fantasy, horror. It is so important when you are doing your homework, moviegoers, on what movie to watch and what you're trying to accomplish in your watch party or your viewing experience, whatever it is that you're doing. It is extremely important to look up, without spoilers, the genre that it falls under, the categories that it falls under, because I say this week after week after week. Every horror movie is not the definition that you have for horror. This is a prime example. The word comedy, fantasy, and horror or what this film falls under. So you can be a comedy fan and find enjoyment in this, and a horror comedy fan and find enjoyment, and the fantasy of the leprechaun and the mythology of that. If you're into that sort of thing, this is a mix of those three genres. If you are looking for a Michael Myers movie feeling, this is not the movie for you. So I cannot stress this enough. I will probably continually say this, and to my diehard fans of the show that listen to this, I apologize for repetitive commentary, but I feel like for those who are just finding this show for the first time and this is their first episode, I need to stress that every time. Moving on. I like the tagline, "Your luck just ran out." I mean, I feel like it's a very simple tagline and it goes with the movie and it's cute, right? It's cute. Whatever. There's an IMDb rating of 4.8 out of 10. And on the Rotten Tomatoes, the tomato meter is 27% and the audience score is 32%. Again, not high rating, but we have seen worse on this show. So, and especially for 90s horror, I can't think of a lot that have hit like top peaks of ratings because this is a time where horror was never taken seriously and it's just starting to get serious now. So we're going to find out why IMDb rated it 4.8 stars. We're going to find out the tomato, the audience score obviously is higher than the tomato reader because I'm sure critics were not doing their job of understanding the fucking assignment, but we'll get into that. Before we start the reviews, we're going to do what we do every week, which is this little thing I like to call terrifying trivia. If you don't know what terrifying trivia is, it's me coming up with a trivia question, usually related to the actual film or the franchise or theme within. So this week's terrifying trivia question is, what did the leprechaun use to kill the shop owner? Again, the question is, what did the leprechaun use to kill the shop owner? Stick around to the end of this week's episode to get the answer. So, if you've never seen Leprechaun, it's been 30 years. I'm going to pick something assuming that most people listening to this are just fans of the movie and know what it is. If you've never seen the movie, it's not really a spoiler. You know there's going to be kills in here, and this isn't a person that this character is not a pivotal member of the cast, so it's okay to be spoiled about this. So we're going to get into the next part, which is our favorite thing to do, is start reading the reviews from IMDb. So it is time to do our top 3 best reviews on IMDb for the 1993 film Leprechaun. The first review is titled, "Come On." All right, here we go. This was written in 2006, by the way. "I think some people hate this movie because they expect it way too much out of it than what it really is. I know this movie isn't worth a 10. It's not even close, but this movie wasn't made to be remembered as a Godfather-type movie. It was made, in my opinion, for just laughs, though there's a few gory and scary scenes, but that's what most people miss about this movie and the whole series. It wasn't made to win all kinds of awards, but as a movie to sit back and enjoy yourself and enjoy an awesome villain, the best in my opinion. If you watch this movie with a mindset that it's not going to be great, you'll enjoy it a lot more." Just FYI, this is a 10 out of 10 review. That's why, and they said they probably doesn't deserve a 10. But if you think it deserves a 10, then give it a fucking 10. Fuck what everyone else thinks. I like this review because it's setting you up to understand that there's an awesome fucking villain, which the Leprechaun is an iconic horror movie villain of the 90s. Warwick Davis did an amazing job. And so, another thing I like about this review is that if you go into the mindset that it's not going to be great, you'll enjoy it a lot more. I think what this means is it's not a bad movie. if you go in, like I said before, with the expectation of what you're going to be watching. And I think that's important to take into effect. My arm is very strange there like that. Do you see that? For those watching. Yeah, it's not a Godfather type movie. It was made for less because that's why it falls under the comedy. It didn't take itself too seriously. Like it's not the way Child's Play took itself so seriously with the first one with the killer doll. This is a leprechaun from fucking Ireland who's evil, who's out to get the people that stole his gold. It has a level of comedic relief in that, you know what I mean? And they did a great job with making sure that that is known. So if you go into that thinking something else, I don't know why. Next review is probably one of my favorite reviews for this movie that I found. It's titled, "The Irish Really Are the Greatest Storytellers in the World. Attention all ye Americans in English, we, that's the we people for those of you that don't know, want to tell you about the time when one of ours had an encounter with Jennifer Aniston. I know that you Americans think of her as the woman on Friends or as Brad Pitt's ex, but it was a fine job she did here. She must have the luck of the Irish. Anyway, Leprechaun portrays a bunch of modern-day people getting chased by one of ours. FYI, the title character was played by Warwick Davis, who also starred in the Harry Potter movies and even appeared in Ray as a man whom Ray Charles met in Seattle. And can a humble Irishman like me make one last request? You Americans need to get over the Brad Jennifer breakup. There's more important things in the world." This was also written in 2006, so you have to go back and understand the time frame and the mindset that this person was in. I fucking thought it was so fun. It was a 10 out of 10 review. Really praising the Irish representation in Hollywood with the Leprechaun and the mythology and Jennifer Aniston. I thought it was just a fun fucking review. It's so great. Really, really well done review. I don't have much else to say about it. I thought it was fun the way that they told the story. Like it was, gather round, children, as I tell you the tale of the time Jennifer Aniston was attacked by a leprechaun. Like I thought it was really fun. Moving on to the last best review for the 1993 film Leprechaun. It is titled, "Great Way to Spend an Hour and a Half." It's a very small review. Ready? "This is my all-time favorite film. It is just so fun to watch. The setting I found to be excellent, as were the characters and the acting. Warwick Davis is the real reason this film is so good. This was one of Aniston's first films, so you cannot expect her to be amazing." That's it. That's the review. Short, simple, and to the point. I thought this was a great review because it made a point that Warwick Davis is the reason this film is so good. Absolutely. Warwick Davis's portrayal of the Leprechaun is so good. He really stepped into the magical mythology of the Leprechaun that people have heard about and then put the evil, sadistic spin on it and made it believable. Like the the fucking Leprechaun has an issue with like dirty shoes and shining shoes. So like killing people. And then he's like, "Oh, your shoes," and I don't have an accent, but like he's like, "The shoes are dirty, can't have that." And he's like spit shining and like pulls this little rag out and like shines the shoes on the dead body. Like it's just amazing little things like that that are awesome in this film. I really, 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 really enjoyed Warwick Davis in this, and I think is another good point to point out in the Jennifer Aniston thing is it's one of her first films, so you can't expect her to be amazing. I don't want to say she's not amazing, but she's new to the craft, you can tell from people that watch her career. Like she does obviously elevate, which is what you want. She's not terrible in the film, but she's brand new, and it's nice to see someone that it's nice for new actors that are coming on the scene to be able to see someone from the beginning of their career to where they're at now and have a sense of encouragement that might not have that all of the factor yet. But look, Jennifer Aniston is a huge name in the industry and a powerful person. This is a great way to see that even she had started somewhere and had similar struggles, I'm sure, as these new actors. So I think it's a great thing to be able to witness, and it's nothing, not a single negative against the actress. I think she did a good job for where she was at in her brand new career, like anybody in a brand new career. But they are the top 3 best reviews on Leprechaun, and I'm glad that I found some really good, fun ones because the bad ones are, we knew there were going to be some terrible reviews based off of the rating system. So I dug through what I could dig through to find ones that I thought would be entertaining and ones that we could really discuss. So moving on to the top 3 worst reviews for the 1993 movie Leprechaun. Here we go. First one's titled, "One of the worst movies I have ever seen." That's an original title, and that's like terrible. This was written in 2002. Here we go. "When I rented this movie, I thought I was in for a classic and memorable horror experience. I mean, everybody's heard of this movie, right? So it would have been sort of good. Wrong. This movie was so bad, it wasn't even laughably bad. When it was supposed to be scary, it wasn't. When it was supposed to be funny, it wasn't. The whole movie is pretty much just a sight gag. Haha, look at the midget run." I hate that term. "With some sort of poor excuse for a plot. Oompa Loompas are funnier and scarier. Also, it has one of those feel-good endings that really makes me hate 90s horror. This movie failed miserably." Let me just jump right in. I don't like that term that's being used. It's just a terrible term, and it shows a lot of what this person's character is. We're just going to put that out there right now. We're not going to repeat it again. I just read this quote for quote, so don't come for me. I don't know what the fuck you thought you were in for, a classic and memorable horror experience. Yeah, I think that you get that with the 90s Leprechaun movie. You get a classic, memorable horror experience. And then this is what cracks me up. I mean, everybody's heard of this movie, right? So it would have been sort of good. If your friend circle or your fucking whatever circle you were talking to have heard of this movie, you would have known about the comedy of it. You would have known that it wasn't going to be your goddamn Exorcist or whatever, your Nightmare on Elm Street. Like, you knew it wasn't going to be that. So I'm not sure what your expectation of the movie was. It sounds like you had, you said funnier and scarier. I thought it was pretty fucking cheesy funny. Scary? No, it wasn't meant to be that scary. There was a scene in the beginning was pretty scary though, with Mrs. O'Grady and the changing of the voice. I thought that was pretty scary, but you hate feel-good endings that make you hate 90s horror. So stop watching 90s horror. Go into especially the mainstream ones, because that's what was making the money. Just lost all complete understanding of what this movie was supposed to be. Moving on to the next. It is titled, "If you rent this clunker, your luck just ran out." And this was written in 1999. We dug through the archives, people. Here we go. "This movie was stunningly poor. Stunningly poor. I am at a loss to explain how anyone could justify one sequel, much less 3. Hell, I can't figure out how the damn movie even managed to get distributed in the first place, despite the Jennifer Aniston factor, which is really no factor. Her feeble powers are completely overwhelmed by this amateurish nightmare of a film. The story is dull, the dialogue is flat, and the decrepit little villain is evil in the most unimaginative, unmagical ways. It's hard to believe anyone could write such a boring, labored script. If you're looking for a pot of gold at your local Blockbuster, don't bother searching for it in a plastic case marked Leprechaun. All you'll find there is a tepid cauldron of algae-coated swamp water." Fucking kudos to the writer. Very creative writing here. I'll give you that. And in the beginning where it says this movie was stunningly poor, like that's in there twice. They really wanted to emphasize the stunningly poor part. I'm trying to figure out what the Jennifer Aniston factor, her feeble powers. What is this person? It sounds like this person is very into the mythology, and I'm just going to read this person a little bit. The vibe I'm getting is Dungeons and Dragons master went into the Leprechaun movie expecting something else and got this. And that's what I'm going with based off of the wording in here, like unmagical, decrepit little villain, tepid cauldron of algae coated swamp water. I mean, you get 100 for creativity, but other than that, you clearly, again, with all the negative reviews, you missed the assignment. And I don't know if you've watched the other ones or if you just knew about the other ones, but please don't watch the other ones if that's how you felt about it, and don't even bother writing a review. Okay. Moving on to the final review, the final worst review for Leprechaun. I have to do a disclaimer here for this one. This is a complete, parody review for the movie Leprechaun, because I don't want to confuse you on why this is under the worst reviews. I got a 1 out of 10 review. Here we go. Titled, The Legend of the Friendly, Sweet Leprechaun. Leprechauns are sweet little guys of Irish myth who love to bring presents and joy to everyone. They're so nice that they'll probably rip out your eyes and show them to some girl. Leprechauns are so nice, especially when you steal their gold and stick it up your buttocks and go, ah, look at me. I'm having a gold enema. Woo-wee. Anyways, the sweet leprechaun, very accurately portrayed with startling realism by Warwick Davis, enchants a family with his good looks and wonderful charm by grabbing their genitals and threatening to kill them. Then he shows his lovely charm and Irish charm by killing people, then some more people. It's a wonderful ride for the whole family. Don't miss it. I tried so hard to get through that. Oh, what? I'm trying to keep it together. Jesus Christ. Where do I begin? What the fuck? I have to go back and watch this movie. Were people sticking gold up their ass? Were they? I don't remember that. Somebody ate a gold coin. But I don't remember people sticking shit up their ass and going, ah, look at me. I can do it. Also very accurately portrayed. Like you're being sarcastic, but a leprechaun is a myth. So what are they supposed to be portrayed as? What does a real leprechaun look like, people? I understand there have been other versions of what they look like, but they're all interpretations of what people think a leprechaun is. And for this purpose, this is what they wanted. They're evil. Emphasis on the word evil. Leprechauns who look like. You don't want your evil leprechaun to come walking around with their fucking bright red beard and their white skin, whatever. And look at the Irish happy-go-lucky charms, man. Gutting people out. That's not, than horror. It just wasn't a part of it. They want him to be ugly and different and sharp claws and teeth. I fucking loved his look. I need a little leprechaun in my room. I need a little leprechaun guy here. I just really couldn't pass up the opportunity for this review on this. It's just, good looks and wonderful charms by grabbing the genitals and threatening to kill them. Again, I don't remember this sexual assault aspects of the movie. It's giving Trump vibes. I don't remember this. I do not own this movie in my collection yet, but I'm hoping to add it very soon and to have a watch party with Ryan and Jenny and anyone else that wants to fucking do it. Just because now I need to go back and see if this is a part of it, because this is such a sarcastic review that I don't even know if it's actually parts of the movie or not anymore. I don't fucking remember. But I remember a lot of the movie, and what comes to mind that I laughed the most at as a child is when the motherfucking leprechaun busts through the garage and is on the ride on a tricycle. His legs fucking pedaling so fast. I laughed so fucking hard. But that concludes the top 3 best and worst reviews on IMDb for the 1993 film Leprechaun. And I'll just end that with kudos to that person's writing again. It was a fun read, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. We're going to move on to what I liked most about the movie, which I just touched on a little bit, which is the character of the Leprechaun. That is why I watched the movie. I solely watch it for him. I want to see as much screen time as him. He was just so fucking fun. He made it a great experience, and I really, really liked him in it. Like I said, the tricycle scene, I liked just everything about him. Phenomenal guy. That phenomenal job for what the assignment was for this movie. I think. What I liked the least, I knew what this movie was. So it was really hard for me to pick what I liked the least, but if I had to pick anything, I guess I would pick the cheesiness of the film. Only because I am drawn towards a more scary experience with horror. But I really enjoyed the Leprechaun for what it is, and and the cheesiness goes with that, so I don't hate it at all. But if I had to pick something, that's what I would pick for what I could think of. So we are rounding out to the end of this episode, and before we do my rating system and my final review, we're going to answer this week's terrifying trivia question. So we're going to recap. This week's terrifying trivia question was, what did the Leprechaun use to kill the shop owner? And the answer is a pogo stick. That motherfucker jumps on a pogo stick and sings the song. This old lad, he had something. He played pogo on his lung or some shit he sang as he's on his chest pogo sticking him to death. One of the most inventive kills in horror movie history. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. I thought it was so fucking fun and inventive. Because leprechauns are little people. So it's like a little child on a pogo stick, but he's not a child, he's an evil leprechaun. And honestly, this movie made me want a fucking pogo stick. And I got a pogo stick. I didn't master the pogo stick, and I definitely didn't pogo on anybody's lung. Just to put it out there. No violence was ever made between me and my pogo stick on another person. I cannot say the same for my front porch that was made out of wood, where I tried to pogo stick on it and put a hole in there. And this is off topic a little bit, but me and my friends, I tell my friend's story all the time because me and my sisters grew up. My mom, I don't fucking know why she did this. She was the duct tape queen. She used duct tape for every fucking thing. She put duct tape over the hole, guys. Duct tape over the hole from the pogo stick. She put duct tape on rips in the couches. We had that floral furniture. And the feet were the long wooden peg kind of thing that broke off. Duct tape it on. I mean, she used duct tape in ways that were never meant to ever intend to be used, and there was a reason because it didn't fucking work. But you couldn't tell that woman no to her duct tape. I grew up in the duct tape house, but anyway, you'll probably hear more stories about that as you listen to this show. Anyway, it's time to give my rating on the 1993 film Leprechaun and my final review. I thought it'd be super fun to do pots of gold for the rating system, and my rating for the 1993 film Leprechaun is a 5 out of 10 pots of gold. I put it right in the middle because of nostalgia reasons, I think, is the main reason I love the movie, but also there's other aspects that I really liked about it. So I knew it's for me, it's not a 10 out of 10. I understood the 4.8 rating for IMDb, and I agree with it. So here is my final review for Leprechaun. Here we go. Leprechaun is not meant to be a new, terrifying addition to the horror world, but rather a fun watch that will have over-the-top kills, ridiculous dialogue, and a plot that almost makes sense. If you enjoy those types of horror films, Leprechaun will not disappoint. The star of the movie is Mr. Warwick Davis, while the rest of the cast does an okay job of portraying terrified teens being pursued by an ugly, evil leprechaun. One of the best treats is seeing a young Jennifer Aniston getting her status as a final girl that is often forgotten. And that is the end of my review. I think that we do forget that Jennifer Aniston's a final girl, and she earned her right as that in this film, and she will always have that in the final girl status for this movie. So where can you go rent Leprechaun? Leprechaun is available for rent on Amazon Prime for $3.99. I couldn't find it streaming free anywhere, but that doesn't mean it's not. So do your research if you're trying to find it. Or if you're a collector, I'm sure you can find it to buy, just like I'm going to very soon, on many of the popular sites that sell horror movies. And that is the end of this week's episode. Please like and review the show if you're a fan. It really helps out with the feedback. I really enjoy all this time that we have been spending together. And until next week, guys, have a great week. Stay spooky, everybody. Thanks again for joining me on this week's episode of The Horror Within Me. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate and review wherever you listen to your podcast. And for even more Horror Within Me content, visit my link tree at linktr.ee/horror within me for links to the website, my Patreon, and all of my social channels to stay up to date on all the spooky stuff that we're doing. So be safe, and until next time, stay spooky.